Well,
Coach, who would be your starting linebackers today?
That decision won't be made till later in the week. You guys got to practice well. That's what we need to do.
well, just now that it's game week, let's talk about the prep you've seen and the work you've seen out of the guys. I guess in the last week, now that you started Louisville work.
Well, we started transitioning, a little Wednesday and definitely Thursday and Friday of last week into Louisville. They got a good football team. Repped again tonight, working on those guys, and got a really talented team from the standpoint of multiple quarterbacks. Bobby does a great job with our offense. Quick is a really good receiver, a guy that can catch the ball vertically, does a nice job in the intermediate areas. Staples and Jaquay Williams are two very talented guys that they've added to their roster. They've got 3 tight ends that they really like, 4 tight ends actually. They really like. Crum kid from Columbus is a very good player. Epps is a very good left tackle. Radcliffe is an outstanding back. Did a nice job for them last year. So we got our work cut out for us. But I like our approach. The guys have worked hard, and we just got a first game, new defense, communication, those sort of things we've got to continue to work through to make sure our players are ready to go.
As confident as you are in some of the freshmen you're going to be going with, I'm sure they're pretty confident in the freshmen they're turning to on the offensive line. And when you're preparing for that, how difficult is that? You don't have any game tape to go off of.
Well, I guess the unknowns a little bit as much as anything about, who exactly they are, where, there's a lot of unknowns on all first games, but certainly, with their situation of receiver, who is going to line up where, as far as those things are concerned, and then the offensive line, exactly, where they'll be with those guys. So, again, we just got to, let our guys go play fast, go play physical. That's what we plan on doing, and we'll prepare the right way, which I feel like we have to this point. We've got to continue to do so Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday, and then we'll walk through on Friday.
Well, what's reasonable in your mind to expect from your guys in their first game in a new system like this, and how different will it be from how it'll be at the end of the season?
It's all about winning. It's nothing about. There is no barometer we're looking for. Let's just do what we need to do to win the game. And I think any coach would say the same thing. Let's just do what we need to do to win the game, and that's what we need to do.
Will all 4 inside linebackers play?
What's that?
Will all 4 of your inside linebackers play?
Yeah, I would expect so.
Well, can you remember a guy like Carl Lawson in your past who was out for the season and just so raring to go the next year, lucky to have football, just to play again? You remember a guy like that you might have had?
Yeah, we had a bunch in Florida in my 3rd year. we had about 12. Carl's a special young man from the standpoint of his work ethic, his approach to the game. A guy that really, enjoys the game of football. He's up in our offices all the time, wanting to watch extra film, wanting to get extra tips. He's got a great motor. He studies the game, and the thing that I like about him as much as anything is he's not a guy that's just a really good pass rusher. He does a nice job in the run game as well. I mean, he does a lot of things extremely well, but his most gifted talent is his work ethic. He's got a very good work ethic.
We'll talk about your young defensive backs. So they continue to make some progress.
Yeah, I've been very pleased with where those guys are. When you take Jonathan Jones and Blake Collins are 2 very experienced guys. Josh Holsey as well, 3 guys that have played on the perimeter and done a really nice job. Trey Matthews, although not last year at Auburn, but has played a lot before, has game experience, and Rudy Ford. So you got a good combination of older players that have been through the preparation, the game week, and they've really been a calming factor for the young players that those kids will play well.
Louisville's still trying to apparently figure out their quarterback situation. With the scout team, do you use several different players? Do you just have one that does a little bit of
Well,
everything?
again, schematically, there's not a whole lot of difference in some things that they do in the throwing game especially, but certainly the quarterback's legs are always a concern. You got to get ready for the quarterback run game. I think they probably have a pretty good idea who their quarterback is. So we'll prepare for what we need to be able to do to win the game.
Do you have a good idea?
I don't know. Let's see.
Well, it's been a lot of people say that Bobby's offense is unusual, I guess, different than, I guess his passing scheme particularly is different than most. What makes it more difficult to defend?
Well, I think at the end of the day, they're going to attack you with the same route concepts, but a lot of different ways. And I think that's been my experience and as a defensive coordinator and head coach and preparing for offenses. It's not about the elaborate plays. It's about the execution of the plays that they have. I go back to Coach Spurrier when he was in Florida and even now in South Carolina. It's not really about the multitude of plays that they run them really well. And I would say the same thing with Gus and our offense. We don't run a bunch of plays, but we run them, we execute them extremely well. And so when they get a different look, when they get a different pressure, when they get a different coverage, they understand the answers. And I think that that's what you see with his offenses as well, is it's not the elaborate number of plays, it's the execution of the plays that they have.
You consider Byron a situational pass rusher for this first game?
No, Byron's going to play. It doesn't matter what the first down, second down, third down. He'll play in the game. He's going to play a lot.
He in there with the Rabbits?
Well, I mean, again, depending on the grouping that we have in, we've got different multiple groupings that we have as far as those things are concerned based on our calls and things. So we're still working through that, but he certainly is going to be a part of those groupings.
Well, how's Jeff Holland been doing?
Jeff's been good. I mean, Jeff's got some really natural pass rush ability. We got to continue to work on some things in the early downs, but he's a guy that, situationally can help us.
Was he be line up at the Buck or at the Sam or?
He could line up either one.
Well, the backup safeties, you have a better feel for those guys now that you're a little bit closer to game time.
Stephen Roberts has done some nice things. Nick Ruffin continues to come on and do nice things for us. So I've got some confidence in those guys. Blake is a guy that we can put at safety if we need to. So you feel good about 5 guys there going in and competing and playing well in the game.
How about Tim Everett? How's he been doing?
Tim's-
Did it help him to come in January a lot?
Yeah, Tim also, I should have mentioned, with the safety position, but also a nickel. But again, I think he's continued to elevate his consistency of play, and that's always been the issue with him. It's not the fact that it has nothing to do with ability. It has to do with the consistency, down in, down out, of playing well, of focusing in, and really locking in on what you need to do. So I've been very pleased. He's made some strides in that area.
Well, having been around championship teams, is there, other than the obvious one, talent, is there something that you said that a championship team has to have?
I think that develops through the season. I think you find that out when you have tough opening games, and it's a one-score game in the fourth quarter, and you find out how your team responds. Your team gets down by 14 points in the first game, and you find out how your team responds. Or wherever it happens during the year, you build that throughout the year. That's not something I think you see in fall camp, other than the camaraderie of your football team, the work ethic of your football team, and the approach of your football team. But those moments, defining moments in the season, define that kind of season for you, and we'll see what happens.
Coach, how have you seen Byron Coward sort of develop over the camp?
How about?
How have you seen Byron Coward develop over the
Yeah,
camp?
I think the last week or so he's been, a much improved guy. But I think, again, we can continue to narrow down game plan wise what we do. And I think that certainly has helped him, and it's helped all the freshmen, because we're in the mode of installation in the early part of camp. There's a lot thrown at them, and then we start to narrow things down for game week, because we've got to install for the season in camp. I don't like introducing a brand new thing, first time out. So that's something I think is important for our guys to understand.
Besides the guys you mentioned, the 2 cornerbacks, what are the freshmen you think might play?
Well, right now, up front, Byron Coward will play. Jeff Holland will contribute in some fashion. Darrell Williams has got an opportunity, especially on special teams. Montavis Atkinson will contribute definitely on special teams. Jeremiah Denson, Tim Irvin, Carlton Davis, Javaris Davis has an opportunity in some situations. Again, I don't know the multitude of snaps right now. Don't hold me to that. But I'm trying to think. I believe that's it. That's not including redshirt freshmen. That's true freshmen I'm talking about. But, all of that can vary, obviously, depending on practice week. We still have a ways to go before Saturday.
Well, Jeremiah Denson's a guy that maybe wasn't as widely known as some of the other guys. What
Just
was it
because you
about
guys don't like him doesn't mean we don't.
What was it about him, and what have you seen out of him this camp that makes him that guy?
Well, he really runs well. He's got great length. He's extremely bright, really, really smart. He can judge the ball in the deep part of the field. He's a great competitor. What did y'all not like about him?
I didn't see him much. So,
Oh, okay.
South
No,
Florida.
we thought he was a good player. At the end of the day, we had a lot of these guys in camp, and we were able to see their skill set. And just because the guy's not rated high doesn't mean he's not a good player. Gerard Powers was pretty good. And Derek Marks was pretty good. Y'all didn't like them either.
Well, you said that to determine who the starting linebackers can be, he's got
I'm just kidding with Jason. You're not getting mad at me.
No mind.
when it comes to naming the starting linebackers, you said it's going to have to just figure it out through practice this week. Is it something where you're going to say the guys have the 2 or 3 best practices, or whoever has the best practice on Thursday, those are the guys who will
Well,
be
it's
better?
throughout the entire game week. it's not just nothing's given. These guys got to go out and earn it every single day, and that's what those guys need to do.
Anything else? All right, Coach,
All
thank
right.
you.